It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Rico Brogna, a happy edition of Rico Brogna. I wasn't expecting that. I'm not going to lie. When I sat down in front of my television watching this game absolutely live at 7:40 p.m., knowing what had already happened on Thursday afternoon, the Diamondbacks getting shellacked by the Dodgers, the Cincinnati Reds having a dramatic victory, buoyed by a wonderful catch in right field, saving the game from being tied. I sat down. I looked at my scorecard. I did not like some of the decisions Carlos Mendoza made with his starting lineup, and I was fearful. I was fearful that Nolan McLean was going to be bad. I was fearful that this offense was not going to hit Shota Imanaga, and I was fearful that control of your future was going to disappear. For one day this year, after the Mets lost on Sunday and the Cincinnati Reds completed their sweep of the Chicago Cubs, we lost control. We had no control on Monday as we sat there waiting for a game on Tuesday. And on Tuesday, with the dramatic victory, with the Pittsburgh Pirates doing us some yeoman's work, we took control back. And as I sat there watching this game, which we will get into every detail of, I was fearful that we were going to lose control. It's one thing to watch the Cincinnati Reds hoping you get a little help. It's another thing watching the Cincinnati Reds needing the help. Like right now, and hopefully this will continue throughout the weekend, but as of right now, the New York Mets control their future. We know that if they win their games, they make the postseason. Even if we're not confident they're actually going to win their games. So when I sat down on Thursday night, rubber game of this 3-game series, Mets trying to win a big one against the Chicago Cubs with the ace on the mound, the truth himself, Nolan McLean, I had a wheezy feeling. And honestly, think about the way the game started and think about how close we came to a buzzkill first inning. Francisco Lindor sets the game up with a leadoff walk. Juan Soto just misses a 2-run home run, sends Pete Crow Armstrong all the way back to the fence in center field. And then Pete Alonso behind in the count rips that double into the left field corner. And the good thing about having second and third one out is you have second and third one out. It's a great thing. You have a great chance to score. The negative is if you do not score, and we have seen the Mets fail in those opportunities a lot this season, it feels worse than even going down 1-2-3. It feels like the ultimate buzzkill. And with Mark Vientos in the cleanup spot, falling behind in the count 1-2, Ron Darling even saying it on the broadcast, boy, Vientos needs to drive a run in. The infield is back. They're giving you a run. All you've got to do is make decent contact, and at the bare minimum, it's 1-0. And as Vientos hit that fly ball in foul territory that I was convinced was going to be an easy catch for either Dansby Swanson or Matt Shaw, I'm disgusted. Aren't we all? Like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Second and third, one out, and Mark Vientos, who made a huge error the night before, who has cooled off big time offensively. He's hitting in the cleanup spot, something I also don't love, but we'll get into the lineup issues a little bit later on. And he's about to pop up in foul territory. And then maybe in a sign that maybe the Mets are going to get a break or two, because they've gotten some with some of these teams stinking in front of them, but it feels like a lot of the breaks don't go their way. This was a big one because old friend Dansby Swanson falls into the stands. And it's one of those rules where I knew it because I was screaming at the TV, we get an extra base, but I wasn't like confident as I was screaming it because I kind of forgot, like, what does happen when you fall in the stands? And does the net being involved, does that change anything? And luckily, the rule is the rule. Swanson falls into the stands technically. And because of that, instead of it being a pop-up second and third, 2 outs, Lindor is awarded home plate. And that was a monstrous moment in this game. Brandon Nimmo would come through right after with an RBI single. No guarantee he does that. I guess you could assume everything falls the same way. And it's a 2 RBI single for Brandon Nimmo. But a huge break with Dansby Swanson falling into the stands. And yes, for anyone asking, hey, Ev, how'd you score it? I don't know. I still don't know. Because I put the little arrow that shows that Lindor scored when Vientos hit a foul pop-up, but it's not a sacrifice fly. So I ain't putting the SF in my scorebook. I don't know what to put. In fact, I've kind of left it blank. I kind of want to call it a fielder's choice. I know the fielder didn't make a choice by falling into the stands, but sometimes fielder's choices aren't literal. So I may put down FC for fielder's choice, but as of right now, I got nothing. And I don't care. And neither do you, because the Mets were able to take that early lead. And that was so important because with Nolan McLean on the mound, give him an early lead. Don't let this be 0-0 in the fifth inning. Don't force every Nolan McLean slider to be life or death. I think it's important when you get runs early to just take the pressure off a little bit. And so that's why those 2 runs early was huge. Lindor's solo home run in the third inning, which was a bomb, absolutely huge. And then obviously Brett Baty. And I think this is clear now to Carlos Mendoza. We have said it on the Rico. I think a lot of people have said it. Brett Baty has hit left-handed pitching for a while now. I had those numbers up a couple of weeks ago that his OPS against lefties since the middle of July was over 800. There is no reason to sit Brett Baty against lefties. There is also no reason to not have Brett Baty playing third base. He is a far better defender than Mark Vientos. And I think what this game did, game 3 of this series against Chicago, I think what it did is it guaranteed 2 lineup decisions that Carlos Mendoza will stick with now for the rest of the regular season and hopefully into a potential postseason. And that is Brett Baty is the third baseman. Period. Stop. It'll be easy against Miami because it's all right-handed starters. But if it's a righty, if it's a lefty, it does not matter. Brett Baty is the third baseman. He's the third baseman because he's hit lefties, and he's the third baseman because of his defense. Mark Vientos committed, I would almost call it an unforgivable error in game 2 of this series. What does Brett Baty do? In the third inning, he pulls off one of the great bare hand plays you'll ever see. A Brooks Robinson-like play, helped out by a great scoop by Pete Alonso. So you see the defense from Baty, and you saw the offense in the fourth inning when he hacked and went opposite field against Imanaga and hit the 3-run home run that I think unquenched our stomachs or our butt cheeks. It relaxed us because at 2-0, you feel good. At 3-0, you feel a little bit better. At 6-0, you thought for a second, hey, this could be stress-free. This could actually be the ass whooping. That would be nice. Don't have to use Edwin Diaz. You don't have to use the bulk of the bullpen. And maybe as important as that, we don't have to sweat it out. Now, obviously, that turned out not to be the case. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the Brett Baty home run against the lefty and the Brett Baty defense, I think, has made crystal clear to this manager what most of us already knew, which is that Brett Baty is the third baseman. That's it. So the Met offense deserves a lot of credit because what they did early set the tone for this game, took the pressure off of Nolan McLean, and I thought allowed Nolan McLean to be aggressive in the strike zone because when you have been given a 6-0 lead, the one thing you can't do is walk people. So when he's striking guys out and he's facing Saya Suzuki in the fourth inning, he's not going to walk them when he's throwing a 2-2 pitch. He's going to be more aggressive in the zone. For whatever reason, he threw him a changeup. I can't figure that one out. And Suzuki tattooed it, but it's okay. It's 6-1. Not a problem. That's what you got to do when you're pitching with a lead. Just don't walk guys. Did kind of the same thing in the fifth inning. I think it was a fastball to Dansby Swanson, first pitch, and he hammered it, hit a home run. Okay, it's 6-2. Now, I think we're getting a little nervous at 6-2. We're starting to look at Nolan McLean's pitch count. We're starting to look at who in the bullpen do you want to go to? How far can Nolan McLean go? I thought it was pretty obvious early on that he was not going to be able to go 7 or 8 innings. So the idea that he was going to lose his rookie status, which I'm sure kept David Stearns up at night, I'm joking, that was gone early because not that McLean was battling or McLean was having to get out of a lot of big jams, because he wasn't. But when you strike out a lot of guys, which he was doing, ends up striking out 11 guys in 5 1/3 innings, you're naturally going to have higher pitch counts. Just is what it is. So you could tell, I'd say by the 3rd inning, that his pitch count was, he was going to knock him out in the 6th inning. That was really what I was sitting there assuming. Because even though it's his last start of the regular season, and you certainly can't think about a potential playoff start, he's still a kid. He's still a guy that hasn't been asked yet to throw 110 pitches in a game. Will that come next year? Hopefully. I think Nolan McLean reeks of a bulldog. He reeks of the kind of guy that's going to be capable of doing it. But you're not doing it in his, what was this now? His 8th major league start. So you figured, all right, get to the 6th inning, or get really to the 7th inning, get through 6 innings. And he gives up the solo home run to Dansby Swanson. And then the 6th inning, it really all came crashing down very quickly. Because think about what he had done at this point. His pitch count is at 79. He's gotten through 5 innings. He's given up only 3 base hits, the 2 solo home runs, and he has struck out 10 guys and walked 1. So he is in complete control. And I think it's a part of why defining Nolan McLean's performance tonight is a little weird, because his finishing line wasn't good. 5 1/3 innings, 5 runs is not good. But if you watched him, if you watched this game, I think you thought he was electric. I thought he was electric. He ran into trouble in the 6th inning. I don't know if it was wearing down necessarily. A little bit of it was bad luck. He walks Ian Happ on a 3-2. I think it was a slider that was well off the plate. You can't walk anybody 1 out in the 6th inning up by 4 runs. He was better off attacking with a fastball and trying to throw one past him. But once you walk Ian Happ, you're creating trouble. And then the double he gave up to Ballesteros, I mean, it was a centimeter from being foul. I thought it was foul. I thought that if Carlos Mendoza wanted to challenge it, which he chose not to, I thought he had a decent case for that being a foul ball. But it wasn't. And all of a sudden, you're looking at a baseball game that's 8-2, but you got 2nd and 3rd 1 out. And if both of those runs score, all of a sudden it's 8-4. You have a game. I was okay with McLean facing Suzuki, even though Saya had hit the home run 2 innings earlier, because what I'm thinking at this point is I still trust you. Yes, you've gotten yourself into trouble. Yes, your pitch count is at 92 going into the at-bat against Suzuki, but I trust Nolan McLean. I think we all have to. I mean, how can you not at this point? He is so clearly, without question, the best starter in this rotation, which says 2 things. It says, A, wow, the kid's impressive, and he is, but it also is a statement on the status of the Met rotation that you're talking about a kid who's made 8 major league starts is far and away your best pitcher. But he is. So I don't know how many people out there disagreed with that. If they wanted Mendy to hook him, I was fine letting him face Suzuki. And unfortunately, he crushed one and hit a 3-run home run, which changes the line, obviously, from 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs to 5 1/3 innings, 5 runs. But more than that, who cares about his pitching line? We got to sweat this baby out, because an 8-2 game becomes an 8-5 game. And thank God, before McLean gave up those runs in the 6th inning, a very underrated moment in this game was Tyrone Taylor. Because in the top of the 6th inning, with 2 on and 2 out after Beatty hit that little topper that he beat out for an infield hit, Tyrone Taylor smoked a 2-run double. Very underratedly a huge hit in this game. We'll remember the luck of Dansby Swanson falling into the stands. We'll remember the clutchness of a 2-out hit by Brandon Nimmo, who had a very clutch series. We'll remember the home runs by Lindor and specifically Brett Beatty. But 6-2 to 8-2 doesn't feel like a big deal. Maybe you didn't think it at the time. But knowing what we know now and knowing that the Mets were going to have to make us sweat a little bit, that Tyrone Taylor smoke double, very important hit. But then we have to trust the bullpen, because clearly after McLean gives up the home run to Suzuki, what are your options? And you look at this bullpen, you know Helsley isn't available, but pretty much everybody else would be. I mean, the one benefit from what happened in game 2 of this series in Helsley getting 6 outs and using Holmes, Minaya, and Dickie Lovelady, who got DFA'd, no surprise by anybody, was that you had a fresh bullpen. Ryan Stanek, and I thought Ryan Stanek's outs in the 6th inning were the most important. Wrigley Field is loud. It's still like sort of early in the game. It's the 6th inning. It's almost the later innings. It's like you're about to enter the later innings, and it's a 3-run game. And Stanek comes in, and when he gives up the bloop base hit to Pete Crow Armstrong, and now Dansby Swanson, who is a pain in the ass, is at the plate, I'm fearing the worst. I'm fearing he hits a 2-run home run. It's a 1-run game. So Ryan Stanek, who threw a 3-2 fastball, I mean, he was ahead of Swanson, fell behind trying to get him to chase on sliders in the dirt. And on 3-2, in a spot where he cannot walk him and bring Matt Shaw up as the tying run, he got Swanson a fly out. Another underratedly big moment. And then you've got the rest of the Met bullpen. Brooks Raley. I'm going to tell you something very unpopular, but it's true. We spend a lot of time, and we will spend a lot of time during the offseason questioning and ripping a lot of the moves that David Stearns made, and rightfully so. But we need to be fair. David Stearns brought back Brooks Raley. And when he brought Brooks Raley back, coming off Tommy John surgery, who knew what to expect? We had no idea. Brooks Raley, outside of the Mariner game, remember that first game of the Seattle series where the Mets imploded and the whole bullpen imploded, including Ryan Helsley? Brooks Raley was awful that day. If you take out that performance against the Mariners, he's basically given up nothing this year. And Brooks Raley comes in 9-1-2 with the batting order and strikes out the freaking side. Incredible work by Raley. It's been great really since he's been activated. Even Tyler Rogers, who has been a disappointment since he's gotten here, there was some hard contact against him, but he pitches a 1-2-3 inning to keep it a 3-run game. The only thing that was disappointing is in the 9th inning, leading this game 8-5, with Edwin Diaz and Gregory Soto both ready to go, I really wanted the Mets to break this game open. And they had a great opportunity to do it when Acuna drew that walk and they had 2 on and 1 out for Lindor and Soto. And I wanted them to break it open for 2 reasons. One, naturally, you want a bigger lead. You don't want to risk blowing this game in the 9th inning, obviously. But the other thing I wanted was to not have to use Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz, 2 days ago, got a 6-out save. He is going to be asked on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, God willing, to come in and make big pitches. I mean, Edwin Diaz may be called upon to pitch every day over the weekend in Miami. And this is the moment of the year where all the restrictions are off, so if you have to, you will. So it would have been nice if this Met offense, and look, the Met offense had a great game. They scored 8 runs, so I'm giving you some little nitpicking. That's all. It's really a knock on Soto. I want to take one little shot at Juan. Little shot. Not a big shot. Guys hit 43 home runs, driven 105 runs. But in this game, he had some bad luck. Pete Crow Armstrong made an incredible diving play against him in the 5th inning. He just missed a home run in the 1st inning. So he didn't have bad at-bats until late when he struck out in the 7th. But when he came up with 2 on and 2 out in the 9th inning, and he's 0 for 4 already, it was a big moment to give Edwin Diaz a break, to blow this game open. And I sort of had confidence Soto would do it because he was already 0 for 4. And he's really hasn't done much in this series. He hit the home run yesterday, but I think he was 1 for 5. I think he's 1 for his last 13 in this series against Chicago. So I was hopeful if Juan could rip one up the alley, maybe you don't have to use Edwin Diaz. Maybe you sit him back down and it keeps him more fresh for a potential situation on Friday. Unfortunately, Soto struck out incredibly meekly and they had to settle with the 3-run lead. But Edwin Diaz did his job, as he's done all year long. He gave up the little infield hit, gets a fly out, gets a double play, and we all get to at least exhale for one more night. A very good team victory. The defense was splendid. And I get that Carlos Mendoza went to his defensive alignment in this game, starting Acuna, starting Torrens, though that was more about injury, playing Beatty at third base, not having Nimmo in center, having Tyrone Taylor in center, but they played good defense. They got a really good start despite the way it ended in the sixth inning. McLean pitched a lot better than his final line, and they got an outstanding bullpen effort. I mean, look, 3 2/3 innings, 1 hit, 0 walks, 1 base runner. Actually, I should say 2 base runners because Diaz gave up a hit. So 2 hits, 2 base runners against the Met bullpen. Tremendous work and a really good win. Now, the follow-up question is, all right, how do you feel? I had a buddy of mine just text me, all right, what's your confidence level? Look, my confidence level is not going to skyrocket because of a good win. I mean, I feel better now than I did 6 hours ago. I think we all do. But this team still needs to exercise some more demons. They exercised a few last year when they went to Atlanta and won game 161. But it's not just the demons of 2007 and 2008 when it comes to the Miami Marlins. It's the demons of losing 3 out of 4 to them. It's the demons of the fact that the Marlins have been a better team than the Mets for the last 3.5 months. So it's not necessarily us thinking about players that have nothing to do with the Marlins that they're going to see on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's more that this is actually a good team. The Mets are having to face a good team on the road, a divisional rival. I would argue the Marlins are going to have the starting pitching edge in every single game, and the Mets have to win all 3. Now, you could say to me, Evan, they don't have to win all 3. The Reds are playing the Brewers. The Reds just lost 2 out of 3 to the Pirates. Even though the Brewers aren't playing for anything, they are going to line up their starters to pitch in the division series, which still starts a week from now. I get it. Like, are the Reds going to win every game against the Brewers? I don't know. The answer is probably not. But the mentality of this team and the mentality we have to have as fans is that the Mets have to win every day. They can't afford to trip up. So they have to go to Miami, and the clean defense we saw on Thursday, it's got to continue. The incredible bullpen effort we saw on Thursday, it's got to continue. The offense, which for 2 of 3 games in Chicago showed up, even with Juan Soto being really quiet, that's got to continue. And we need the manager in the final 3 games to understand who's on this roster and who needs to play. The lineup for this game really featured, I'd say 2 things that bothered me, but one thing that really bothered me, and that is Luisangel Acuna starting. Jeff McNeil isn't hitting, understand it. Mark Vientos is a butcher at third base, I understand it. But Luisangel Acuna provides much less value as a guy starting versus a guy coming off the bench. I think the answer right now, in terms of who should play, especially the final 3 games of this season, I think it is very simple. The obvious stuff we know, Alonso, Alvarez when he's healthy, fine. Lindor, we know that. Jeff McNeil should play second base. Yes, he pissed us off with the 2 errors 3 days ago, but he is mostly a good defender, mostly, and he has more offensive capabilities than Luisangel Acuna. And here's what's great. Luisangel Acuna is more of a weapon off the bench than Jeff McNeil is. Yeah, you can use McNeil as a pinch hitter, sure, but Acuna can be used to pinch run for anybody in any position. And he can eventually enter the game for defense. I thought Mendy understood this. Acuna cannot start. He went 0 for 3 with a walk. He had some good at-bats. Fine. But you lessen the value of him when he is starting. So Jeff McNeil should just be the second baseman. Brett Beatty should clearly be the third baseman. His defense, even his offense, but mostly his defense, Beatty's got to play third. And let's get to the obvious one. Gary Cohen said it on the broadcast, and we're all thinking it, and we all know it. Tyrone Taylor is the center fielder. We have gone through 159 games. We've lived through the era of Jose Siri, We've lived through Tyrone Taylor a little bit. We've lived through Cedric Mullins. We've lived through Jeff McNeil. We even lived through Adea Brandon Nimmo. As we sit here approaching game 160, when it comes to defense, when it comes to be a winning ball player, when it comes to even getting hot every once in a while, the answer is Tyrone Taylor. We may have had different answers to this throughout the 159 games, but as we enter the final three, much like the playoffs a year ago, the clear center fielder is Tyrone Taylor. It is not that complicated. He's the guy. Think about the two impacts he's already had in this series in Chicago. You've got the outfield assist in the first inning of game 2, which at least for a few innings kept the game close before Jonah Tong imploded, but it was a perfect throw. It was a clutch throw. Welcome back, Tyrone. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the 2-run double he hit in the 6th inning of game 3 was another monstrous moment. The thing about Tyrone Taylor is that he's not the greatest hitter in the world. We know that. He's a .220 hitter who's played a lot this year and has only hit 2 home runs and driven in 27 runs. We all understand that. But he's a winning player, and he's a guy who can get hot. And let us hope, fresh off the injured list, Tyrone Taylor is hot. But hell of a Met victory. The McLean performance, the bullpen, the offense, the defense, it was one worth celebrating. And you could celebrate your highlights with Mio Sparkling Sake, a true crowd pleaser, light, bubbly, and easy to enjoy. Whether you're at Citi Field or your favorite spot, ask for Mio Sparkling Sake by name. A new tradition, served chilled, imported from Japan, the official sake of Rico Brogna. Enjoy responsibly. Hoff, how you feeling after the Mets take this series and we remain in control going to Miami?
I think you summed it up perfectly before. I'm happy they won. Clearly, that's what they needed. It was nice to see the offensive explosion again for a little bit. Lindor going now 30-30-30 for the second time in 3 years. Missed it last year by 1 stolen base. So that's always a good thing. But my confidence level going into the Marlins series, it's still like, I know I said 25% yesterday. Okay, now it's 30%. We moved up a little bit. I'm not sure if that's great, but listen, they did what they had to do, I guess, in Chicago. I wish they would have won all 3 games, but they did. Clearly they got punked yesterday. It's still all in front of them. They have Sandy. They got the pitching staff of the Marlins. But if you're telling me that they can't shut down the Miami Marlins offense for 3 days and put up enough runs to win 2 of 3 games, then we shouldn't be going to playoffs anyway.
Yeah. You know what gives me some level of confidence? It has nothing to do with the Mets, by the way. What gives me some level of confidence is, and I was thinking about this the other day about the Reds and facing the Brewers, and I was even thinking about the Diamondbacks facing the Padres. Both of the teams that we would like to see lose are facing teams that are already in the playoffs, right? The Milwaukee Brewers are in the postseason. They have a first-round bye. They're the number 1 seed, or I think they're about to be the number 1 seed. I don't think they've actually clinched it yet, but the Brewers have everything wrapped up. And the Padres, for the most part, have everything wrapped up. They can still catch Chicago and have home field advantage in the wild card round, but there's a good chance that the Padres are content with where they are. And I was thinking about 10 years ago. I was thinking about even the Mets recently. They only have a certain amount of pitchers in their bullpen because rosters don't expand the way they used to. And it hit me that rosters not expanding saves teams like the New York Mets. And what I mean by that is if rosters expand to 40 and the Brewers had 15, 18 pitchers to go to and 20 position players to go to, they could sit everybody. That last game of the year could be a spring training game. I've seen it before. We all have. But you can't do that anymore. The idea of, well, we clinched the division, we clinched this, everything's wrapped up, who cares? You can't sit everybody anymore. It's not mathematically possible. There's only 5 guys on your bench. So I guess, yeah, you could sit 5 guys and play all your bench players. So even when we say, well, the Brewers have everything wrapped up, what do they care? Look, you can't control care, but you can control who plays. And I think the rules that keeps the rosters at 27 actually benefits the competitive balance late in the season. Because if the Brewers had 40 guys on their roster, I don't know what their lineups would look like this weekend. And my confidence that the Brewers helping the Mets would actually be very limited. The Marlins are less of an example of this because they're a team that's out of it. They're trying to be a spoiler in all likelihood, and so they can do whatever they want. But the Padres, again, playing the Diamondbacks, the Brewers playing the Reds, they really can't do that much. Like, yeah, I guess Freddie Peralta can pitch 3 innings and he can be pulled, but even the bullpens, like there's only the guys you have plus 1 that are available in your bullpen. It's not as if you could just use a bunch of minor leaguers to fill out a game. I remember that being the challenge the Mets had in game 162 last year against Atlanta. So with all that said, I have a level of confidence that even though the Padres and Brewers may not be playing for much, they're good teams and good players are going to be on the field. And those teams are better than the teams they're facing. And so maybe we may get more help than we realize.
So you're telling me that David Stearns, if he wanted to, on Sunday, couldn't DFA a bunch of guys and option as many people as possible to then bring up a whole studded, minor league system?
Yeah, except there are rules about when you call those guys back. So
even in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think the 10-day rule would still apply if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double check that though. Like Huascar Brazoban, who is currently on this roster, who pitched a few days ago, I don't think they could send him down and just call him back a few days ago, but that's a good one. I'll check on postseason rosters. Maybe that's different when the postseason starts, but think about it. The Mets weren't even able to do that last year. So,
right.
And that's not really a thing. So I have a confidence, and I hope I don't eat these words. I have a confidence that the Reds may not go to Milwaukee and have a good time. It's conceivable that the Reds lose 2 out of 3. It's conceivable that the Diamondback situation is a little bit different because now the Mets have a 2-game lead. So Arizona needs to make up 2 games on the Mets. So obviously, if Arizona sweeps, the Mets would have to lose 2 out of 3 for the Diamondbacks to come back and catch them. So it's a little bit different because there's a little bit more of a cushion with Arizona. But I look at these final 9 games, the 3 the Mets have, the 3 Arizona has, and the 3 Cincinnati has. And look, we just saw the Reds really struggle against the Pirates. They were fortunate to take the 3rd game in this series. The Reds have really good starting pitching. They don't have a lot else. It's possible we get the needed help. Now, I can't rely on that, and I don't think we should as fans. I think we have to basically say, go win all 3 games, take out the need for help. But when you ask me, hey, what's your confidence? My confidence may go up a little bit just because I think I trust the Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, that's what I was about to ask you because, you think about this. You got Terry Francona versus Pat Murphy. You got 2 guys that are kind of like really, older. I don't know if Murphy's older, but as far as veteran-wise, he's been around. He hasn't coached as long. But the point being is that, I feel like he's going to do the right thing. He's not going to just go up and fold because here's the other thing, too. Are you going to allow a potential opponent in the playoffs to sneak in under your watch?
But I'll ask you this, Pete. How do you fold? If you're a manager, how do you fold? There's only so many guys you can sit. So what are you doing? Telling guys not to try? No one goes on the field to not try. They're all battling for their stats. They're all battling for their production. They're going to go to arbitration next year, half these guys. I don't even think that's a real thing.
Yeah, but if you don't have to pitch Freddie Peralta, like I said, yes. 7 innings, pull him early.
100%. That's a real thing. Him coming out after 3-4 innings, I would almost expect that.
Right. Christian Yelich not playing at all. What's the point of playing Christian Yelich?
I think the reason why you play guys is that the Brewers aren't going to play again until Saturday. So they're going to get 6 days off or 5 days off. So resting guys doesn't really serve a purpose. The Padres are a little bit different on their end with Arizona because they're going to play on Tuesday. So sure, giving guys a few off days may make sense. But when you're Milwaukee, when you're Philadelphia, when you're a team with a first-round bye, it doesn't really serve that much of a purpose. And remember this about the Brewers. The Mets closed their season last year against the Brewers. They kicked our ass on Friday and Saturday, and they had nothing to play for. Nothing to play for. So they took 2 out of 3 against the Mets last year. I think we sort of forget that because we remember game 161. But, yeah, the Mets got help on that final weekend. They did take care of business on the final game in Milwaukee by winning a game, but the Brewers weren't exactly going easy on the Mets during the 3-game series last year.
Good. Well, then don't go easy on the Reds. Please, I beg you.
No kidding. Let's read some of your emails, then we'll pick the Rico, I'm the man right now, star of the series, and the net negative. Andrew writes, guys, if the Mets make the playoffs, I think they need a new term rather than backing into the playoffs. What would be a better phrase? Perhaps flatlining into the playoffs? Dragged into October in a coffin? Your thoughts? Yeah, I don't know what to call it. You know, backing in, sure. The thing about backing in is, here's how I would define backing in. Look, there's a lot of games in a baseball season, so I'm not denying that the Mets haven't played badly for a while. They've been a bad team since June. But backing in would be the Mets losing 2 out of 3, but Cincinnati also losing 2 out of 3, and Arizona not winning all 3. And so the Mets lose the final series of the year and still make the playoffs. I think that'd be more of a back-in situation. Johnny from Woodridge writes, would you sign up right now for the Mets to win 2 out of 3 in Miami? That would force the Reds to sweep the Brewers in Milwaukee. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Would I sign for it? It is very difficult to trust other teams, but like I laid out, I kind of think that the Brewers will win a game or two. So would I sign for 2 out of 3? Yeah, because that would mean the Mets had a winning road trip for just the second time this year. And I guess I'll take my chances that the Reds lose once. Because if the Mets win 2 out of 3, the Diamondbacks are out. So you don't have to worry about them. If the Mets win 2 out of 3, all you need is Cincinnati to lose one time. So yeah, I'd say yes to that. Steve writes, I don't understand why Mendy keeps hitting Beatty against lefties. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the eye test tells me he's had competitive at-bats against lefties for a while now. We know how much better defensively he is than Vientos. So why does Mendoza keep playing Vientos at third versus lefties? Beatty should play every day, especially in the playoffs, if they're lucky enough to make it, when one small defensive miscue can cost you a series. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I think that Beatty's defense in this game, Beatty's power in this game, plus combine that with the fact they're facing nothing but righties for the rest of the regular season, I would be very surprised if Brett Beatty is not the third baseman Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Steven writes, Evan, last year the Mets headed down to Atlanta for games 161 and 162. The Mets were required to face their past demons and exercise them in order to reach October. Is this in this year not the same? Although these demons are not quite as recent as the ones that haunted Atlanta a year ago, the Mets must now stare down the ghosts from 07 and 08, the ghosts of Cody Ross, Scott Schoenweiss, and Wes Helms, and vanquish them to move on. Now is finally their opportunity to do what those ill-fated and now infamous teams couldn't. It sounds a little poetic, doesn't it? Here's to hoping the 2025 Mets are prepared to similarly cast out the evil spirits as they did a year ago. Ryan writes, Marlins, the last series of the year to prevent a historic collapse. What could possibly go wrong? Christian writes, doubtful, but do you think since he didn't get close to his rookie status for innings, do we see Nolan McLean available as a reliever this weekend? If you ask me, the answer is depending on the situation. Yeah. I mean, look, he's not available Friday. He's not available Saturday. I think Sunday, if the season is on the line, you cannot be presumptuous, whatever the word is, to say, oh, I have to keep him ready for game 1. You cannot think that at all. So I would say if game 162 is for the season and you need him because God knows how you got outs in game 161 and God knows how you got some outs in game 162, I think it would be malpractice to not make him available out of the bullpen. And if you make the playoffs, okay, you figure it out. I hate to say that, but you figure it out. Getting to the playoffs is wonderful, but you got to get there first. So I don't think that's crazy. Will they do it? I'm not sure. David writes, you're a little harsh on Tyler Rogers. 2.08 ERA in 26 outings, plus having to slide into Halsley's 8th inning slot. Wouldn't be in a wild card spot without him. David, look closer at some of his numbers. Look at the inherited runners he's given up. Look at the strikeouts that he's gotten. He's averaging like 3 strikeouts per 9 innings. Look at his whip. I think ERA with relievers can be very deceiving. And so he's not, look, calling him a disaster wouldn't be fair. I certainly won't. But he's been a disappointment. I'll give you some of the numbers. His whip is 112. With the Giants, it was 0.8. He's allowing 9 hits per 9. With the Giants, it was 7. His walks are pretty low still, but they're up from his Giant numbers. And I told you the strikeouts, he's averaging 3 strikeouts per 9 innings. So, yeah, he has a good ERA, but between the inherited runners, the base runners, he just hasn't been what I had hoped and what I had expected. Nicholas writes, we've got momentum now. You know how we do that. Watch out, Miami. Yeah, we do great with momentum. The Mets are the worst with momentum. Hopefully they can change that. Ephraim writes, bright side. Obviously, the season did not go as well as we had hoped, but does it make sense to say the best case scenario is playing the Dodgers in a 3-game series? I still think the Dodgers are the team to beat, and I would rather try to get lucky in a short series and come into the DS with momentum than have to see the Dodgers in a best of 7. I don't think there's any question. When a team is really good and a team is better than you, and I think we'd all agree the Dodgers are better than the Mets, you just naturally have a better shot to beat them in a best of 3 series than you do in a best of 5 and in a best of 7. So I absolutely agree. How about this with Pete Alonso? Pete Alonso, this comes from Dan. Pete Alonso is hitting .263, 14 home runs, 32 RBIs in 46 games against the Marlins in Miami in his career. That is equated to 50 home runs and 113 RBIs over 162. So Pete's got some good numbers in Miami. I remember earlier this season, one of the early season big moments, one of the early season's big games, if you want to call it a DVD game, maybe. The Mets were playing that rubber game against Miami, final game of the 3-game series, first road trip of the year, and Alonso hit a big game-tying home run. So he has certainly had some moments down there. Before we look closer at the Miami series, let's hand out the awards for the second to last series of the year. We have the Rico, I'm the man right now, star of the series. And, of course, we have the net negative. Let's start with the negative. We'll get it out of the way. I think that the 2 starting pitchers in game 1 and game 2 are prime candidates. David Peterson getting knocked out in the second inning, allowing 5 runs. Jonathan completing 2 innings, but then giving up a bunch of base hits in the third, allowing 5 runs. I think those are 2 easy, obvious candidates. I think the other one is Mark Vientos, though. Mark Vientos, who was so lucky in game 3 when he hit the foul pop-up and Dansby Swanson fell into the stands, giving him an extra RBI. But he was 0 for 4 in the finale of this series. He ended up going 2 for 13 in this series. Not very impactful. But he also committed a monstrous error in game 2. So when you combine the bad defense and the bad offense, he would be a candidate for it. I think Jeff McNeil is another guy to at least mention. Jeff McNeil also had some bad defense in game 1. They were able to overcome it with the 2 errors. He also just went a very quiet 1 for 6 in this series. So I think it's those 4 guys as the net negative. Hoff, who would you pick as the net negative of this series victory against the Chicago Cubs?
I think it's going to be one of the pitchers. And I do think that, McNeil's defense was so terrible. They did win the Peterson game, but not because of his help. I think it's got to go to Jonathan, unfortunately. Peterson was just as bad, but I think Tong's got to be the take the L on this one.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards Peterson, but I get your point. They won the game. But you also have to keep in mind that they won the game at what cost? They had to go to their bullpen in the freaking second inning. And when you go to the bullpen in the second inning, you got to use Huascar Brazoban, Ryan Stanek, Gregory Soto, Tyler Rogers, Brooks Raley, 6 outs from Edwin Diaz. So even though they won the game, I think David Peterson was also just worse in his game. Like Jonathan, got through that first inning with the help of Tyrone Taylor, had a 1-2-3 second inning. David Peterson was just a flat-out disaster.
Yeah, but hold on. Wait a second. Like, Soto didn't do him any favors. There's a ball that went right over his head that allowed 2 runs. Come on.
So you want to make Juan Soto the net negative?
No,
I mean,
no.
he didn't do much in this series. Like, he's a candidate if you want to put him up there.
He is, but I honestly think you can't, at this point in time, unless you're really egregious offensively, it's going to go to the starting pitching because they're the reason why we're losing games.
Yeah.
The pitching is always the reason why every game.
I agree with you. I think as much as Vientos has a real bid for this, 2 for 13, obviously the error, I think it's got to be one of the starting pitchers. I lean towards David Peterson, but do you really want to make it Jonah Tong because that's the game they happen to lose? I mean, it really has nothing to do with them, though. Like, the Mets scoring a lot of runs doesn't change the fact that David Peterson pitched an inning and a third and allowed 5 runs. Like, dude, that is unacceptable. I know Jonah Tong didn't do much better, but he's also, I don't know, making his 5th major league start. I'm sorry, I'm overruling you. It's David Peterson.
Wait, hold on. Before you make the overrule, do we want to go to the people?
Go to the people. I think that's only fair. What Pete Hoffman is going to do, for those that consume the Rico live, we do it on YouTube, and then obviously you can download your podcast. There's a live chat while we do the Rico Brogna, and the people are very opinionated. So everybody out there, net negative for this series against Chicago, David Peterson or Jonah Tong?
All right. So far, I'm just being honest with you. We're getting a lot of Senga. No.
Kodai Senga for not existing? Is that why?
It started out with heavy Tong, but now it's gone to Peterson. It's all Peterson now. So you're right. David Peterson's going to be the net negative. But Tong had a very good showing in the beginning.
Yes. This is David Peterson's 4th net negative and the 2nd time he's won it in the last 3 series, which is very difficult to do. So congratulations to David Peterson. He's been dominating this award in the second half.
Hey, listen, he still has one more opportunity. We may see him Sunday.
Yeah, that's scary to think about, but I guess you're right. Let's get to the Rico I'm the Man right now star of the series, of course, inspired by the famous Jordani Valdespin. I think there are a lot of really good candidates. I think that Brandon Nimmo, who I killed for the Washington series and made him the net negative, I think Brandon Nimmo answered in a huge way. The 3-run home run he hit in the 5th inning of game 1 to complete the comeback, or at least sort of complete the comeback by tying the game up, was as big of a hit as a Met player has had all year. He also was forced into playing center field, something he hasn't done this year. And also in game 3, the game that we are reacting to instantly, he had 3 hits, he scored 2 runs, and he had a very big RBI single in the 1st inning. Obviously, the Mets got a run on the board on the Swanson fall in the stands play, but a 2-out hit by Brandon Nimmo. So he ends up in this series getting just a lot of big hits. He ended up with 6 hits in this series. So I think he's a very, very worthy candidate. I think Francisco Alvarez, unfortunately, did not play in game 3. We all thought that Mendy was benching him. That was not the case. I guess he felt some cramps in his lower half, but Alvarez hits the game-winning home run in game 1 and tried to get him back in the game by hitting a 2-run home run in game 2. I think he is worthy of an honorable mention. Francisco Lindor hit what we hoped was the tone-setting home run of game 1 of this series, then had an RBI single later on that gave them the temporary lead. And he also started this game with a walk and hit a home run in the 3rd inning. But I think the other candidates, and the ones I'm certainly leaning to, number 1, Brooks Raley. Brooks Raley comes in, 3-run game, 7th inning, 9-1-2 of the batting order, and strikes out the side. And if you go back to game 1, Brooks Raley came in the 7th inning with 2 on and 2 out, and the Mets in a tie game, and he struck out Pete Crow Armstrong. So, I mean, think about that. Brooks Raley faced 4 batters in this series. He struck them all out, including 1 in a tie game with 2 on and 2 out. And then the other one is obvious. It's Edwin Diaz, the 6-out save in the opener of this series, striking out 5, and then getting the save in the finale of this series. They won this series. They won 2 out of 3. It was a huge series win. That's why there are so many candidates. I think all of them are worthy. Before you tell me who you want, I'm telling you right now, I am leaning heavily towards Edwin Diaz, but I am open to being convinced. Who's the Rico, I'm the man right now star of the series?
So I'm gonna do a little 3 stars of the series. I know
It's hockey now?
Yeah, it's gonna lead into the I'm the man star of the series.
All right,
but
go ahead.
number 3, it's Francisco Alvarez. I know people may not want to hear that. I know he didn't play on Thursday, but the fact is his home runs were electric. It was the biggest home run of his career in game 1 of the series. Game 2, even though they were down and never came back, it did feel like that could have been a start to another big comeback if the Mets bats could have showed up, but they didn't. So that's not his fault.
Nope.
So I think that Francisco Alvarez is up there bigger than Nimmo because Nimmo, listen, did the improbable.
Such a hater.
Listen, I got to give the guy credit. He hit a tough lefty in Taylor Rogers. It was a good 3-run home run. I'll give you that. He was good, but the Alvarez home run was just better. I'm sorry. Brooks rarely gets 2, and it's because you're right. The guy has done. If there's anybody else in the bullpen that you're going to go to at this point in time, it's Brooks Raley. All he does is shut people down. Again, 3 strikeouts today, like you said. He was fantastic. You need that other person. Edwin Diaz can't do it himself, so Brooks Raley right now is his 1B to 1A type of deal. And then obviously it is Edwin Diaz because he single-handedly saved the season on Tuesday, going 2 innings and striking out 5 guys.
So you agree with me, it's Edwin Diaz?
Yes, but it was a long way to get there.
No, I think all those guys you mentioned deserve credit. I think you're minimizing Brandon Nimmo because, look, Alvarez's 2-run home run was incredibly big. I think the later this game went, the Mets were going to run out of arms. If this game went to the 10th inning, I don't know where they were going to go. I don't even know if they would have gone to Diaz in the 8th inning if the game was still tied. So obviously Alvarez's home run was monstrous. But the Brandon Nimmo 3-run home run was the holy crap, I can't believe they came back moment. It was huge. But I think when you define this series, and hopefully we're going to look back at this series fondly, we're not going to think of it as, basically Jets-Patriots right before they lost to the Bills in 2016 or 2015, I should say, or the John Maine game, if we're going to keep it Mets, or the Johan Santana game. Hopefully we're going to remember this fondly because the Mets made the playoffs. This was about Edwin Diaz reminding us he's elite, reminding us that he is the best closer in baseball. I know we've said that a lot this season, but this was a reminder that the moment isn't too big for him. Again, doesn't mean he won't ever blow a save. I'm sure he will. Hopefully it's not in the worst spot ever, but it's not because of the moment. And to get a 6-out save in which you strike out 5 guys and retire everybody, bing, 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 bing. Like, I went through the archives of the great Mariano Rivera, who is the single greatest closer in the history of the sport. Even Mariano Rivera never had a 2-inning, 6-out, 5-strikeout save. Never happened.
What?
Yeah.
No, that seems fake. Are you sure? He pitched for like 30 years.
He did. And I actually went deep into the numbers on Mariano Rivera's history. So basically, I wrote it down and I deleted it. So I'm going to do this off memory. In the regular season, he had, I think, 6 or 7 6-out saves. Okay, 6 or 7. Because how many times was Joe Torre really asking him to do it during the regular season? But in the playoffs, the number was like 20. And look, Mariano is great. He didn't strike out 5 guys. It doesn't mean he didn't retire all 6. It doesn't mean he didn't get the job done. He got the job done better than anybody else. But in terms of getting 6 outs and striking out 5 guys while doing it, Mariano Rivera never did it. Never did it. And Edwin Diaz did that. So congratulations to Edwin. He is the Rico, I'm the man right now star of the series, and he's winning it for the 2nd straight week. He won it last week in the Washington series, in which they lost 2 out of 3. And I was going through this award that we've handed out this year to see how many times have we had back-to-back winners. And we've had it, but it's rare. Lindor won back-to-back earlier this season after they swept the Cardinals and swept the Phillies. Juan Soto won it back-to-back weeks when they lost 2 out of 3 to the Phillies and then they split a 4-game series with Atlanta. And believe it or not, that's it. So Edwin Diaz joins select company, winning back-to-back Rico, I'm the man right now, stars of the series. Now, as we head to Miami, I have a question. And I'm just going to give you the facts. Don't yell at me. I don't want anyone pissed off at me. I'm just giving you the facts, and then we could all decide what we want to do with these facts. On Friday night, they're facing Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara has been around for a while now. So a lot of guys have a track record against him. A lot of guys have faced him before. So I was going through the career numbers. I was going through the career splits against him, and a couple of things jumped out at me. I'd love to share them with you. Number one, Juan Soto's got great numbers against him. Not a surprise. 280 batting average, 800 OPS, 2 home runs. Fine. Brandon Nimmo has really, really, really bad numbers against him. 5 for 34, a 147 batting average, a 544 OPS. Starling Marte has really good numbers against him. 5 for 16 with a home run and 2 triples. Pete Alonso has atrocious numbers against him. Really bad. 5 for 37 with a home run, a 135 batting average. But here's where things get tricky. Cedric Mullins, very good numbers against Sandy Alcantara. 4 for 9 with 2 home runs. He is one of only 2 players on the Met roster who's hit multiple home runs in their career against Sandy Alcantara, the other being Juan Soto. Tyrone Taylor, 0 for 6 with 2 strikeouts. So I give you the facts, and I ask the question, how much do we factor in Mullins' success against Alcantara when even considering giving him a start in center field? Do we factor it at all? Do we factor it in a little bit? Or do we say, shut your mouth, Cedric Mullins cannot play center field over Tyrone Taylor? Where do you stand on that one?
Well, my initial reaction is he should not be playing at all, but I want to know when he hit those home runs. I know that you probably don't have them off the top of your head, so I'm trying to look right now off a baseball reference. Like, was any of them this year when he was going through his Tommy John issues? Because that is going to weigh big. You know, like if he hit a home run this year off of Sandy when his ERA was like 9, I don't take any of that serious. He's not who he is now.
My guess is going to be when you get 9 at-bats, they're going to be spread out over years. Like it's probably just spread out. I'm not sure if he faced him this year. I'd have to look back at that. Obviously, with interleague play and you play every team every year, there's certainly a chance that when he was with Baltimore, he faced him. And he actually faced him probably when the Mets faced the Marlins earlier this year in August during the 3 out of 4. In fact, I'm going to jump to that on my scorecard because now I'm curious to see if he faced him in any of those games.
I'll tell you right now that if he did face him in July, he didn't hit a home run off of him because he had like 3 hits and none of them were home runs. So that's
right.
They faced Miami then. Did he face him in?
So Sandy Alcantara started the Sunday game, and Cedric Mullins did face him 3 times in the game and went 0 for 3.
Yeah.
So if he's 4 for 9, I guess that means at first he was 4 for 6.
Dude, he went in that Miami series, he went 0 for 8, 5, 0 for 13.
By the way, you want my answer to this? My answer is I like looking at career numbers. I think sometimes they can tell you something, and sometimes they should impact who you start or not. I think in the case of Cedric Mullins, it cannot. Like Tyrone Taylor is the center fielder because even if like you're looking for an advantage offensively, right? That's why you look at this. But I think what Taylor gives this team defensively is so important. And I'd put that over any slight advantage one thinks Cedric Mullins may give you. The only thing I would read out of the career numbers is Starling Marte's success and experience against him would lead me to saying, you know what, maybe I sit Vientos at DH and I play Marte. They're going to face 3 righties this weekend. Right now, I look at the DH spot and it feels like it's Marte or Vientos. Vientos has certainly cooled off. So I would lean, if I'm building the lineup out for Friday night's game. In fact, I'll give you the exact lineup. Assume Alvarez is back. I hope Alvarez is back. Guy hit 2 home runs in a row. The idea of him sitting on Thursday, I know pissed a lot of people off. Obviously, what we later found out is it was an injury. It wasn't Carlos saying, screw it, I want to sit him. I would line it up this way. Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, Marte, Beatty, Alvarez, Taylor, McNeil. Not necessarily in that order, obviously. I mean, you want to move it around, whatever. But those would be my 9 guys I'd line up against Sandy Alcantara on Friday. So I'll go around the diamond to make it less confusing. Alonso at first, McNeil at second, Lindor at short, Beatty at third, Alvarez behind the plate, Nimmo in left, Taylor in center, Soto in right, and Starling Marte would be my DH to open up this 3-game series against Sandy Alcantara. That's how I would line it up offensively. I think Beatty and Taylor have clearly taken those roles, and they got to stick with it. They're the guys right now. I mean, they have earned it. And I think over this latter part of the season, those have to be the guys that are out there. All right, let me read some more emails before we get the hell out of here. Zach writes, Ev Dog, Mendoza made a really smart and tactical decision today, playing a defensive and base running team as his first priority. With the bullpen totally shot the past 2 days, we couldn't afford to play a slugfest. Make them play our game. Really crafty move. I agree with it to an extent. Like, obviously, Torrens playing wasn't a part of his, master strategy here. I think that was more Alvarez is banged up. I'm with you on Tyrone Taylor. I'm with you on Brett Beatty. I'm not totally with you there on Luis Angel Acuna. I think you lose a little bit from the value of Acuna by not having him available off the bench. This is a 1-run game late. You want him off the bench as a pinch runner. Matthew writes, Evan, great series win by the Mets. However, I'm let down by the performance of Soto. He did nothing this series outside of his solo home run, a Juan Solo as it's known now. Add his really brutal error in game 1 that Nimmo and Alvy bailed him out on. He provided nothing positive of note this series. I believe he should be the net negative of the series. If you want to make it in Juan Soto if they want to make it, Juan Soto needs to do more in these final 3 games. We mentioned him as an honorable mention, but it's tough to not give it to David Peterson or Jonah Tong, who are non-competitive. Scott writes, first, remember that unless the Phillies somehow lose a game to the Twins at home, Milwaukee needs to win 1 at home versus the Reds. That is, of course, to secure the number 1 seed, which gives them home field advantage throughout. Before I continue with the email, Scott, I don't know how much they care about that. You know what I mean? Like, you got a first-round bye, that matters. You won your division, that matters. That home field advantage only matters if they're playing the Phillies in a National League Championship Series. But you are right in terms of what's on the line. Either way, I doubt the Reds sweep the Brewers, and the Padres need to win for a shot at home field versus the Cubs. The Padres have the tiebreaker. The bottom line is, I think we need to win 2 out of 3 against the Marlins. Will they? Knowing them. To do so, it will come down to the last day of the season and having their first win after losing after 8 innings. Or maybe more likely, they lose that game, leaving the bases loaded in the 9th. What's our prediction? What is my prediction for this series against Miami and how it ends? It's a good question, and it may determine our fate. Well, before I give you my prediction, how about I give you a pick? And the pick segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. So the Mets, not the game total, the Mets over-under in runs scored for Friday night's game right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook app is 4.5. Considering the Met offense has been pretty good 2 of the last 3 days, and considering how incredibly streaky they are, and considering Sandy Alcantara's on the mound, I'm going to take the under. So before I get in-depth on my predictions for the series, I will tell you my first pick, and overall a 6-4 record while doing this, is to take the under of 4.5 on Mets total runs. That was the pick segment brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. I would love, especially after a win, especially winning 2 out of 3 against Chicago, I'd love to say confidently the Mets are going to win this series. I'd love to say that. It's tough to, because of A, the Marlins have just been better than us for 4 months. B, this team has done such a terrible job with any positive momentum. And 3, who's pitching? Like, think about the New York Mets pitching this weekend that they're going to try to get through to make the postseason. Brandon Sproat, who's been impressive, has made 3 major league starts. I mean, that's who we're relying on to open the series against Sandy Alcantara, who has pitched very well over his last 7 starts, an ERA in the mid-2s. I mean, that is, it's a leap of faith. It's one thing to trust Nolan McLean. It's very difficult to then go out and trust Brandon Sproat, who's only made a handful of starts. And then you get to Saturday. Who is pitching Saturday? What do you do? I mean, do you go tag team? Mendoza's flirted with the idea of using 3 starting pitchers on Saturday, of Peterson, Manaea, and Holmes all getting into that game. I don't know what that looks like. It's tough to be confident about that. And then, okay, they do that. What about Sunday? What does that look like? Jonah Tong coming out of the bullpen on 3 days rest? Like, what does it look like? So I am not telling you I'm negative because, I'm a negative Met fan. Not doing that. I'm not giving you any reason other than I'm looking at this team. I'm telling you what I saw. You're telling me what you saw. We know what their pitching situation's like. We know how inconsistent this team has been. I'd be lying to you to say I'm confident they're going to win 2 out of 3. I hope they do. I hope I'm wrong. I can't wait to break down playoff rotation ideas again. But that's why I am not confident. And that is why I lean towards us losing the series. Now, can they lose this series and still make the playoffs? It's on the table. With how the Reds have played, how inconsistent they've been, it is absolutely on the table. But I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope the Mets can manage to take care of business themselves. But here's what I do know. As we've done with the Chicago series, we will continue to Rico after these games. I can't guarantee it's going to be right after the game, especially Saturday. It's a late afternoon game. I did tell my wife I want to watch the game live. Usually Saturday's a big DVR situation. So we will try to give you the Ricos right after the game, but the weekends certainly get a little bit more complicated. But there will be a Rico after Friday's game, after Saturday's game, and then obviously the series recap and the regular season ending edition of Rico Brogna. So we got you covered this weekend. Keep your fingers crossed. I'd say keep the faith, but does it sound like I keep the faith? I keep it real. That's what I try to do. Anyhow, we appreciate you hanging out and listening and downloading the Rico Brogna. Remember to subscribe to it and also subscribe to the WFAN YouTube page so you can always be live with us if you prefer to consume the Rico Brogna in a live manner. Either way, thanks for listening. Thanks to Hoff. We'll catch you again in less than 24 hours on the next edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.